Hey everyone, it's Nero here from Alone Season 13 World Championship, and I'm putting this video together to kind of showcase a little bit what it was like for me preparing for the season. So I've got some footage I'm going to include, which I recorded during the lead up to it, and also I'm going to sit down and chat to you about like my approach to putting on weight as well. So stick around. Hopefully, you guys find it interesting, and yeah, have a bit of fun, and I'd be interested to get your thoughts about the process as well. Okay, so first up, let's deal with the topic of putting on weight. And I know this is a really like hot topic in amongst the Alone community. People debating whether it's in alignment with like the ethics of the show. So I'd be really interested to hear people's thoughts about even just putting on weight for the experience. For my own, I guess, approach to it, I did put on weight. I don't know whether I can say how much I put on weight just yet, but I did want to put on some weight. I wanted to have a bit of a buffer out there, which it's controversial because there is a theory out there that it's just the more excess weight that you have that your body's not used to carrying, then you're just going to burn that up with just excess calories having to move that weight around. And so there's that train of thought as well. There's a lot of other people like, well, no, we want to have like just that buffer because once your body uses up all of that weight, then it starts to use up your muscles, and eventually once it gets through your muscles, it starts to use your organs. And so people want to have that buffer. And so I always find it really interesting. So please, share your comments below about what you think you would probably do in this situation. But for me, I did want to have a bit of a buffer, but I wanted to put it on, as healthy as possible. And so I really leaned into the advice that my good mentor and friend Kai Moroney from season 7, her approach was to put on weight, but to try and do it through eating as much whole foods and natural foods as possible. So really steered away from going down the path of like the big, like the supplements, the weight gaining supplements, and just trying to just have things like, high fat foods and just trying to just eat as clean as possible, but just be in excess of your normal calories that you would consume throughout the day, and just trying to put on weight that way. And that's what I really kind of steered towards. I also listened to a lot of the stuff that Dave Holder, he talks about on different podcasts with regards to his approach to things. He's not a big fan of it. Side note, if you're wondering who Dave Holder is, he's the head survival consultant for Alone US. So yeah, he's got really a lot of interesting insights into regards to that. And yeah, he doesn't believe in putting on an excess amount of weight, but having maybe just a little bit of buffer here and there, it might be advantageous. So I did want to put on a bit of weight, but I knew it was going to be very difficult for me because I just have a very high metabolism. So I run quite lean anyway. It's quite difficult for me to put on any excess weight. And just for me to be able to put on a lot of weight, I really just wanted to just have the long-term goal of just like looking after myself like through the lead up process and then being out on the land. So I wanted to do that, but for me it was just incredibly difficult, so difficult to just eat and chew the amount of calories that I needed to be able to put on excess weight. And I ended up having to revert to using smoothies and shakes and liquid calories just to try and get that through, because just man, like my jaw was just getting tired, and it was just taking so much time of my day just to eat that amount of excess calories. So I ended up doing a smoothie, which I've got the recipe here. I'm going to read it out, but I'll also put it up on screen as well for you. It was my smoothie recipe. So it equaled to about 1,500 calories for this smoothie. And I would try and have it twice a day, along with eating other foods such as like high fat fish. So a lot of like mackerel and not necessarily a little bit of tuna and salmon as well. Just what I could get here locally, being in rural New South Wales, Australia, and also just cooking with a lot of animal fats as well. I really stuck away from having a lot of high carb stuff because I knew that was going to be high carbs was going to be quite limited for me to be able to procure that out on the land, and I'll get to that in a moment. But the idea was to high fat foods. So with my smoothie, which to be honest I actually loved, it tasted fantastic to a point till towards the end there where it was very hard for me to stomach anything. But I had this smoothie. So essentially it was 1 banana, it was 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, 1 full avocado, 1 tablespoon of cacao powder, just because I love cacao and I love chocolate. That's my sort of vice. a teaspoon of chia seeds, a teaspoon of flaxseed powder, 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, 4 tablespoons of powdered milk, 1 tablespoon of double cream, and then 250 to 300 mils of full cream milk. And combine that all together, got me roughly around about 1,500 calories. And to be honest, it tasted fantastic. I was, uncomfortably full afterwards, and I kind of almost wanted to go into a bit of a food coma to kind of just lay there and just think about my life decisions. But it worked, to be honest. It really did work, and just by doing that, I managed to be able to put on the weight that I was aiming for by the end of the season. But I really steered away from, processed foods, particularly like any sort of like carbs or anything at all, because the idea is that, when your body goes out onto the land, you're going to be eating essentially as clean as possible, well, as clean as humanly possible in this environment. It's going to be just pure, just wild game food and anything that you can forage. And the more aligned that you can get your digestive system with just eating whole foods beforehand, the less likely that switch to that is going to shock the system. And that was the approach. That's the theory. You'll need to watch the show to see how that kind of plays out for me, whether I did end up getting constipated. But that's the idea, to try and not shock the system as much as possible and eat as clean as possible. So even throughout when I was traveling over there, and even orientation, like base camp, where we're sitting there and we're going through all that sort of stuff beforehand, I was still steering away from any processed foods and just trying to eat as clean as possible, so that transition was as smooth as I could. It ended up working for me. I put on the weight that I wanted to put on for the season, but I didn't want to put on a crazy amount. So my strategy was to be fit, fat, and flexible. And I know I talk about this in the other videos I'm going to share with you as well. So I didn't want to compromise my mobility and end up causing myself an injury, because I'm just not used to moving around just so much excess weight, having any sort of extra wear on my joints, or maybe just falling and just doing myself an injury because I'm just not used to that. So I also just didn't want to overload my my heart and my that sort of system as well, just trying to just move and process and all that sort of stuff. That was my approach to putting on weight. I feel really good about that. I think that's enough about me with the putting on the weight, but I'll also just cover, and I'll switch to the other videos that I kind of recorded when I could, leading to leaving and going on the experience itself. Hey everyone, I just thought I'd do a very quick video on prepping for Alone Season 13. I know a whole bunch of other participants have done that in the past, and I found that really valuable to kind of look into their sort of individual preparation for their particular season. And so I thought I'd put up something as well to kind of help, for those who are just interested, or those who are looking to go on Alone, whether that's Alone US or any other particular Alones around. And I haven't actually received the confirmation yet that I'm in the top 10. I was going to wait until I received that confirmation, hopefully I do, to then put out a video. But I thought I would just do a quick video now to go across the things that I've been working on in between end of boot camp and when you actually get the call. So I'm trying to think of the skills or goals or things just take a long time. And also I'm trying to think of things that can happen concurrently, happening at the same time. So we don't know exactly where we're going. We know it's going to be cold, and it could possibly be in the boreal forest. That's all we know so far. A couple other things is fitness as well. So when I'm over in Canada for their winter season, I use my axe quite a lot, and that is going to be one of the items that I'm going to be taking to the boreal forest. No matter where it is, boreal forest, the axe is the #1 item of choice. But when I'm in Australia, I don't use an axe quite as much, so I kind of lose that bit of axe fitness and a bit of roughness where the axe particularly hits and contacts the hands. I've just been every day getting out and I've got this massive big bloodwood that's been felled. I didn't fell it, somebody else felled it for the timber. There's a whole bunch of the crown, which is really, really thick. And so each day I'm just getting out and doing about 30 minutes each day of just sectioning that up, bucking up that crown, just to get myself back into axe fitness, because I want to go and be strong with all my axe work when I'm on the show. And I don't want to be over gripping, fatiguing, and I just want to be really, really on point, because we know that axes can and have taken people out. So you want to be really squared away with your axe work. I've been trying to incorporate into yoga a lot of meditation and tapping and reducing stress it is stressful. Your life is on hold the whole entire time. So it's very stressful not knowing and waiting for the go ahead. So you're trying to like work out what to do now, and you know the mad rush once you get the go ahead to then get everything else done, and it grinds on you. It is very stressful just wondering and playing those mind games of like, when's it going to be? Is it going to be me? All that sort of stuff. And so you need to kind of like control that and to bring that down. And it's also really good strategies to use when you're out on loan as well, when you're in really stressful situations, to be able to bring yourself, to be able to relax yourself, to be able to calm yourself, to be able to reduce that stress, and to come up with different strategies that you can use to kind of help you in those situations. Yeah, so you just want to be able to keep on top of your stress and be able to work through those however that works for you. For me, it's meditation, it's yoga, it's doing certain movements and certain breath work. It's not just about the hard skills, it's also about, well, it's mainly about the mental. And so being on top of that as much as possible. Also for me, there's certain bits of kit that I would like to make, I am making to go on the show, but it's also stuff that I want to have anyway. So I have a normal pair of everyday Allure of the North mitts, leather mitts with liners, which I love, and I made when I was over in Allure of the North on one of my winter trips over there. So I have them, but I really want to take some deep cold weather, longer, heavier duty beaver mitts, which I will use on a loan, or even if I don't use them on a loan, you know, when I go back to Canada with Lure of the North, I will use them. So that's something that it just takes time, and you really don't want to rush those projects. You want to make sure that they are really, really, really you know, well made. And so that's something that I've been working on, because regardless of a loan, that's something that I want and something that's going to take a lot of time. So I've been chipping away at that. While I've been doing that, I've also been doing listening to, like I said, podcasts, you know, different sort of YouTubes and everything. So while I'm sewing and making my items, I'm also learning those at the same time. So just trying to do lots of things at once. It depends on your social situation, your family and life, but also spending a lot of time with family, and you know that's critical. They are going to be your support, your backbone, and making sure you spend a lot of time with them, because once you get the go ahead that you're going to be on a loan, and everything's just all about prepping for that, and that time all of a sudden goes by really, really quickly. So hey everybody, Nero here, and I'm back with an update. So it's been a couple of weeks, but I finally got the call to say that I am one of the top 10 for a loan season 13, which I now know is going to be up in the Northwest Territories in Canada, above the Arctic Circle, which is incredibly exciting. Also intimidating as well. It's actually, yeah, it's been a couple of weeks since I've received the news. And to be honest, it's been a whirlwind of just lots of things going on. So unless you're a participant on a loan, there's so much stuff that you'll never know about. And it doesn't take away from the reality of what you actually do on a loan, but just there is just so much going on. Plus the footage that you see for participants when they shoot things at home, which go into like their backstory on the show, we as participants, we shoot all that stuff ourselves. We don't have somebody to come out. We have like a whole bunch of things that we need to like tick off to kind of essentially represent who we are and, you know, why we want to be on a loan. Well, the voiceover is about why we want to be on a loan, but like it's shooting footage basically to give the audience, to give you guys more idea of who we are and why we've been chosen. And so we shoot all that sort of stuff. And so we have a whole bunch of stuff which we need to tick off for that. Plus, all of the gear. So it's not just your 10 items, but it's all your clothing. All of that stuff, it needs to get checked before we actually depart to head off to our location, just so we don't get there and we have things like, no, that's not going to make it. Because once you're there, the chance of you being able to replace that in a very remote location are slim to none. So you don't want to have that scenario. So we get all the things checked as well. We need to order a whole bunch of stuff as well. So all that stuff's being shipped to me. So you got to go through all of that, plus anything that you want to make. You also need to get that verified and ticked off as well. So I mentioned in my previous video, I'm making my mitts, my heavy duty cold weather mitts, but I'm also making extra cold moccasins as well. So, and I've only made them specifically for the show. The mitts I could use any season, which I'm in Canada, but the moccasins themselves, they are dedicated for the learning experience in the Arctic. So doing that takes a lot of time as well, because I want to put a lot of care, a lot of love, and just to make sure that it works as well. So that takes a lot of time, along with, like just going over more specific skills. So I've got the dimensions for the tarp that we get given. It's not part of your 10 items, though you can choose a tarp for one of your 10 items. But this is the extra one that you get given to keep all your camera gear dry. Most participants, they use that as their shelter tarp. So I have the dimensions for that. So I've bought that. So I'm playing around with that just so I have an idea, because it's all in feet. We do with metric, just what that actually looks like with spacing. But also I'm playing around with a whole bunch of other different shelter designs that I may or may not use on the show, and I just want to see how that actually works with the dimensions that we have, like just space wise. So I've been doing that, touching up on a lot of other skills. Like, it's one thing to be working towards something that may happen, and it's another thing to actually be working towards something that is going to happen. So all this information that I've either seen or I've read or I've done or whatnot, like, it takes on a whole entire different approach, and it really sinks into you when you know that you're actually going to be on the show. Another thing I'll touch on is the stress. So the stress of getting ready for this show, it's intense, but it's an exciting stress, at least for me anyway. Whereas the stress for waiting to find out whether I was in the top 10, that was the worst stress for me. I didn't deal with that as well, both physically and mentally. That was harder than the stress of now getting everything ready. It's exciting. There is so much to be done. And yeah, to be honest, it's been really hard to even carve away some time to even just record this. But yeah, getting a lot of things done, still working on the fitness and on the health, working a lot on the mindset as well. So I've got a really good friend of mine. He is a psychologist. He knows me very, very well. And so we're just sitting down, just going through a whole bunch of different strategies just to overcome possible obstacles they're going to come up with me out on the land. And it's not to try and like hide them or and try to like compartmentalize them. It's just so I can be aware of them and just kind of deal with them. We know that alone, it's more mental than it is like the physical, and trying to not just work on those hard skills and work on putting the weight and the health and everything. It's also your mental health as well. So doing a lot in regards to that, and reading and listening to a lot around that, and breath work and yoga and stuff, which I've talked about in the other video. And then the challenge of also spending quality time with family, because for me anyway, my mental processing is just constantly just going. So my family, they can tell, they know that I'm quite distracted with being so absorbed in this. And so trying to take the time to actually be present with family is really challenging, because you're trying to relax. We played a lot of board games as a family, and try and just relax and enjoy and play that, whilst my mind is thinking of all these different things that either I have to do or possible scenarios, that sort of stuff, problem solving, coming up with lots of different sort of creative crafts and that sort of thing. Yeah, that's difficult. I think, once I get on top of the majority of the workload, then towards the end, hopefully I'll be able to be more present. But that's something I'm really, really being challenged with as well. There's a lot going on. I'm sure there's loads of other things. I'm just looking at my snare wire now here. So we actually can't snare legally here in Australia. So I'm not snaring here in Australia, but I have bought the wire, bought extra wire for me to play around with and just work out, like, we have a certain sort of dimensions or gauge that we can and can't take, and just figuring out like what the breaking strength is, what's more pliable, that sort of thing, just to get used to that rather than trying to figure that out on the lands. So yes, that's a lot of things that I've been working on. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other things that I can't tell you, a whole bunch of things that I'll remember afterwards. But anyway, this is a quick update. I'm super pumped to be going and be representing my country in this, what we are thinking of as the World Cup, the global alone. So yeah, nervous, pumped, excited, a lot to get done. And yeah, hopefully I'll be able to do another video before I leave. If not, then I'll just do a whole bunch of recap stuff. So yeah, so that's it. Yeah, hope you guys found that interesting. And yeah, I'll try and, like I said, try and include some more stuff as the season progresses. And once the season fully airs, try and share as much as I can about what this whole entire lead up was, just in case for those of you who you're just super fans and you're really interested in it, but also those that are actually looking to participate in the Alone experience, whether that's the US, Alone Australia, whatever it is. I've found it very useful for previous participants sharing this sort of stuff, and so I just want to be able to pass it on to those who may be following in our footsteps as well. So good luck with that. Hope you guys have found it interesting and informative, and I'll see you on the next video.